What's up, everybody? It's one of your two favorite archaeologists, Jordan from Off the Top Podcast. And if you're in the market to make a podcast, the first recommendation I have for you is to listen to our How to Make a Podcast podcast. The second recommendation I have for you is Anchor. And so what Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, distributing, and monetizing your podcast. And the way that Julian and I use it, it's basically the hub for interacting and getting our podcast on the 12 platforms that we're on. And so if you want part of this anchory and podcasty goodness, go to anchor.fm/start and get going so we can have that podcast success.
All right, welcome to Off the Top. Just basically coming straight from what's happened this week and stuff that we've gone through. Today I just felt like talking about money because I recently got a credit card. And while getting the credit card, I realized the ease of being able to get a credit card is far easier than it was probably, say, 5 to 10 years ago. I literally just walked in, said, hey, I want a credit card, and they did their background checks and credit checks. And like, all right, here you go, you're approved, and you get this amount. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, it's not really surprising because, I mean, the ease of credit comes, or the ease of accessing money comes with the upward trend of how technology is going. And so naturally, I mean, things get faster. And before, like, I'm sure our parents had to fill out paperwork and then that got shipped to a headquarters somewhere. And then it got processed and then shipped back with maybe a credit card or something. So yeah, I think it's cool.
I think what I was also thinking about is just like people who are financially responsible. It's great for them how easy it is to get one. But if you're not financially responsible, you go get a credit card and say it's $5,000 and you don't understand what that means and you get it within 2 days. I feel like that's a lot of the problems we're seeing, at least in our generation, is people getting credit cards and not understanding, how a monthly payment works or, how to improve your credit, that it's not just $5,000 that you get and you can, pay off in 12 months and not get fined for it. And I think that kind of just relates to, in general, I guess we'll talk about the generation as it is, like a lot of things we spend our money on, considering we're younger, not saying that I'm perfect, but like a lot of things people spend their money on is like, you could go buy the raw resources and it's going to be cheaper than what you're buying prepped, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's definitely a sense of maybe misunderstood responsibility when it comes to credit cards and stuff. And maybe I've only lived in one generation.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a generational thing. Like this just happens to be one generation where it's more pervasive, or maybe it's a thing that you see every time because, I mean, there's going to be irresponsible people out there, whether they have a credit card or car or animal or a relationship. I mean, there's just out there. But yeah, I think that financial literacy is one of the most important things that you can possess for yourself.
Yeah. I think it also comes to, like you're saying, it might just be like we've only been in one generation, and maybe because this generation's growing with technology, it's just ease of access to different products. Like you have Mod Pizza that makes pizza in 5 minutes for, $8, or you have Dutch Bros Coffee where you can just drive through and grab a coffee real quick, as opposed to maybe our parents or grandparents back then. Like you didn't have that 5-minute satisfaction to just drive through and spend your money. Like if you wanted pizza, you're going to a pizza restaurant and you had to wait an hour to purchase that, as opposed to like teenage kids. You're like, oh, I'm going to lunch. I'm going to go grab this pizza real quick. It's $8. And, 5 days out of the week, say you go there 3 times, you're spending $24, as opposed to our grandparents might have been like, I want pizza, but I don't want to do the wait. So they don't go for, 2 weeks, and they finally go. And obviously back there's inflation and prices are different, but they aren't spending that money as consistently as I think kids are today, maybe.
Yeah, and I mean, even to take it a step further, there's things like Grubhub or like Uber Eats where somebody will literally, like, you say what you want, and somebody will drive in their car, pick it up, and then deliver it to your doorstep. So, I feel like those opportunities exacerbates the potential of doing something like that, which is kind of costly if you think about it. And I mean, there's no like opening your wallet, grabbing money out of it and handing it to somebody else that has kind of an emotional connection of like loss. I mean, it's all electronic. So regardless if you are keeping track of that or not, it's kind of in the background of it all.
Yeah, I agree. That's a great point. Like Uber and Grubhub, that's like the difference between now and then is unreal. Like I don't grasp the concept of like, besides a pizza delivery man in major cities and markets, I can go, hey, I want Chipotle. Some other dude is going to go pick it up who I'm paying. And then I'm also paying for food, which is like the ease of access. Once again, it comes back to is like your time is merely like you just waiting at home playing video games to grab a burrito, and you're not understanding that, yeah, like you said, you don't have physical cash, so you're paying $16 through your phone, and you're like, oh, there's $16. But realistically, if I have I know for me personally, if I have a $20 bill and I have to give out $16, that really makes me think about the decision, regardless of what it is. Like if I'm, buying dinner, I'm like, oh, this menu item is $9.99. I got a 20. That's half of this thing. As opposed to like, if I'm on Amazon, it's like, you can buy this for $9.99. I'm like, bet, I'm on that. And I think, yeah, like you're saying, it's just kind of crazy what the digital currency has, you can't really keep track of unless you're always keeping track of it, which a lot of people aren't.
Yeah. And that kind of reminds me, I was talking to somebody and we kind of got on the subject of credit card auto pay, and his stance on it was that he didn't like to put his credit cards on auto pay, because it forces him to take a closer look on what he's spending. And I quite frankly, I have my credit cards on auto pay because I feel like I know what I'm spending, like when I'm spending it. But at the same time, that's another level of like almost forcing yourself to realize what you're actually doing with your money too.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, obviously we both have credit cards. So what are some of your personal, tips for yourself, or what you do to improve on your credit, or, stay on top of that?
Well, just to improve on your credit, I feel like there's a fairly straightforward a couple things that you need to do. One is never make a late payment. That's
Agreed.
Obviously really, yeah, that's straightforward. Another one too is don't hold too high of a balance on your credit card. For an example, I think the metric is you don't want to go over 1/3 of what your credit card capacity is. So for instance, if you have a $3,000 credit limit, don't spend over $1,000, or don't hold more than $1,000 of credit or like debt on that credit card at one time.
Yeah, I agree. I do the same thing, and I kind of look at the example to like kind of put in real setting. If I'm giving you money or someone money, or I'm taking money from someone, I'm more likely to give that person money if, say they're like, oh, I need $30. And instead of someone who comes to me that's like, hey man, I need $90. Like 9 out of 10 times I'm going to give the person with $30, or that needs $30, I'm going to give it to them without even thinking about it. I'll give people $90, but it's more of a risk if they don't pay me back, right? And I think, but from a bank standpoint, obviously, like they like when people are using 90%, so 90 out of $100, because they're more likely not to give you the money back or fault on it because they need more of the available funds. And I also do like the same thing as I don't try to use my credit card. So I use like under 30%. I make sure I'm on top of my payments, but like if I don't have to use it, I don't use it. I don't know if that does anything different for credit, but I just don't use it showing that person like, hey, I don't really need the money. It's here just in case.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm kind of in the base camp of I will use my credit card for everything, because the reason why is I get a cash back reward on it. So, I mean, my thought is if I'm going to spend money on this thing right now, there's two advantages. I get my cash back that I can use for more cash. So basically I get that thing at a discount. And secondly, that means that I have that money that, like, so, I mean, let's say that there's two people that are me.
Okay.
One person buys a pair of shoes with cash. And so that's, let's say, $100 down the drain that I just gave out in cash to get these shoes. Another one of me buys it with a credit card. I get that discount technically with that cash back. And then on top of that, I didn't give anybody my $100 yet. So that $100 is mine to invest or do other things with to possibly create money. I mean, that's basically what like institutions do. And that's how you create money, and that's how banks do it. Is they have somebody's money, or let's say that you give the bank $1,000, and they have a required reserve that they hold for that. But also, it's not like they're just putting your $1,000 in the bank or like in a vault and not touching it. They loan that $1,000, or they'll loan, depending on their requirements, 900 of those dollars to somebody who needs it. And essentially creating more money on the money that you gave them to hold.
Yeah, that makes sense. And from like a marketing standpoint, the incentivizing of credit cards to, 1% cash back, 1.5% cash back, or 5% is like a really great idea on whoever did it. Because obviously there's a lot of people like you who understand how cash back works, and it's great. And there's also people who see like, all right, if I get this new credit card and I spend $4,000 in this first month, I get, 5% back, or a $300 certificate, where maybe they don't realize they're not going to spend $4,000 in a month if that's not what they usually do, but they're spending $4,000 to get that $300 cash back. So you're really spending $3,700 when realistically, maybe you only needed to spend $2,200 that, in those 3 months or that month or however it works. I think that's just a great tactic from the business standpoint. And I was looking at that when I was getting credit cards. I was like, oh, you can get $300 back if you spend $2,000 in the first month. And I was like, I'm probably not going to spend $2,000 in the first month, and I don't want your high interest or APR on this. So I'm just going to get the one that has the low interest and gives me the same balance or credit limit. And maybe I'll just take regular 1% cash back on top of that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely, like I said, I feel like, or like you said, I feel like people fall into the spider's web of kind of the marketing of, you spend X amount and then you get this back. I mean, it's great if you kind of like plan it out, like, all right, so I need to spend money on this, X, Y, and Z, and that comes out to however many dollars. And if you kind of like stage those events in the proper order, that you get your credit card, and then within that 3-month period or 1-month period, you spend those money on those things, but you've already saved for them.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
You got to think like you got to be responsible and kind of like really thoughtful of how you spend your money to get the most out of it.
Yeah, I agree. It's almost like if you think about it, it's kind of similar to an investment or being just, it's financially wise. And on that note, I'll talk about like when we were in high school, Dutch Bros once again comes up, and you'd have girls and guys going there every morning, 5 days a week. You spend, let's say, $4 or $5 on a drink 5 times a week. It's $25. You're like, oh, that's $25. Then, 2 weeks, $50. 3 weeks, $75. A month, $100. So at the end of the year, you're spending $1,200 on coffee, and you don't realize it at the moment because it's incremental payments of $5. But like realistically, knowing where we are at now, like say you're still getting coffee, but you're getting it, Tuesday, Thursday, 2 days a week, and you're spending $10 and you have $15. So you have a 10 that you bought and 15 in your pocket. You can take that $15 and maybe invest it into a stock, or, maybe it doesn't even have to be a stock. Maybe you're investing it in a fund to pay for college, or a fund to get a new car, or whatever it may be. I think there's just like a lack of communication on what you can do with that, extra $15 that isn't necessarily doing, continuing the same thing. Because do you really need the coffee 5 days a week? Maybe, probably not. But maybe $15 at the end of the year, goes to a greater good or a greater cause, I would say.
Yeah, I feel like it's been said and said again. Financial literacy is something that needs to be taught. especially to people who are younger and who have a lot more time before retirement, really. But yeah, it's the way I think about it is there's two ways to make money. You either increase your income somehow, or you can decrease your expenses. I mean, at the end of the day, when you're looking at net, you're doing the same thing. You're getting more money back than you did before. And I mean, if you think about it, like, let's say you work at a job and then all of a sudden you're like, I want to increase my spending capacity or income somehow. I can ask my boss for a 10% raise.
Yeah.
You can try that, or you can decrease your expenses by 10% as well. And then that effectively will give you that raise.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah. And I mean, on the point of like using that money to do something different, granted, like somebody in high school might not know how to, like invest in like index or mutual funds at the time, but I think it's a beautiful thing with technology and the internet. All that stuff is easily accessible. Yeah. Or if you're a little more risk averse, you could always invest in, just put it in a bank account, like an Ally bank account. That'll get you, I think, like 1.15 or 1.2% back, which is way exceeds like a normal bank, like your Chase Bank would do, your Wells Fargo would do at the time, or at this moment right now.
Yeah, like not saying that we're perfect with money by any means, but like at least like, I mean, I spend like ridiculous amounts of money on shoes, whatever that may be, but like it's not like I'm buying shoes every time they come out. Like when I was in high school buying shoes, I didn't have a job. I worked a summer job and saved my money and used that for gas and like other various things. But like, I also realized, say those same people that are buying coffee, like I wasn't buying coffee, but those same people, like you're going to lunch. Like, so you're going out to buy, another $8 worth of stuff or $4, whatever the deal is. But I was one of the kids who realized, hey, if I have my mom or myself buy stuff so I can eat at home at lunch, like that cost is going to be lower over time. Like I can make 15 sandwiches for the price of, a little over the price of one Subway sandwich, which on that note, I'm never going to eat at a sandwich shop just because I'm not paying someone to make a sandwich. Like I don't get anything crazy and I'm not going to pay you $9 to give me some bread, meat, lettuce, and cheese. Like I'm going to go to the store and buy that for $12 and make myself, 15 sandwiches over the course of the week. And I mean, that's what I did. I necessarily wasn't decreasing expenses, but I was taking out things like I don't need to go eat lunch every day or go eat out with friends every day. Like I can save that money incrementally over time. And at the end of the month, I'll have, $200. And was it wise that I was buying shoes? No, but I like it. But I wasn't spending $200 on food and then spending the other $200 on shoes at the same time, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I think what you're getting at really is know your expenses. Yeah. So if you know that you have a predisposition for shoes, then you need to work that into your budget somehow. And if that means that you, instead of going out for lunch as much or going out for lunch at all, that you don't, and then you meal prep or something of that nature, then you do that. Yeah. And that's basically what that fundamentally is, making sure your budget is what you want it to be. Mm-hmm. And so that you have your money for shoes, and then to get that money for shoes, if you don't have a job, or even if you did, like to get the maximum amount of money or the money you want to spend on shoes, you can adjust other things like either, eating out, going to movies, or things of that nature.
Yeah. I think like taking it a step further from, say we don't go to high school, but say we're going into when you're paying a mortgage on your home, or even, not even that far, say you're paying a car payment or something that kind of happens after high school that it's a little bit more money. Like that's what people are doing. Like people who are paying their car payments aren't, just like, oh, I'm going to pay $400 a month for this, and then I'm going to pay $400 on, video games also. When people are getting those payments and funds are kind of tight, they're going, okay, I'm going to spend $400 on my car payment this month. That means I need to cut down on, the games I'm buying or food I'm spending on or whatever it may be, you know, the Amazon impulse purchases is what kind of people are stepping away from to pay for those things. And I think that's going back to what you said is something that should be taught. Like in high school, I didn't learn anything about money. Like it was all me doing it on my own, going on the internet, finding out ways to save money or tips from people who save money or whatever it may be. As in high school, people are like, all right, yeah, you get paid. You can put it in a bank account or you can get like a Roth IRA. And that was about it. And then you skip over to, you know, other things like high school English or, you know, math.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's one of those things where, like, if you're around it, though, I mean, that's basically your class that you do every day. If your parents are super, like, financially focused and understand kind of the principles of finance, then you're around it and you get raised by it. Just like if your parents were mechanics, you know, you'd naturally have some sort of predisposition for cars. Not saying that you'd have a predilection or you'd strongly like them, but I'm sure you'd be more comfortable around a vehicle or working on one than somebody who's never touched one. And so, I mean, part of it has to do with kind of like how your upbringing and like the personality of, all right, so let's figure this out on the internet.
Yeah, I agree. So now let's jump to the opposite side. What are some of your impulse purchases? What are things that you buy and you instantly go like, I didn't need to buy that, but I bought it. What are some of those things for you?
So let me twist your question around a little bit. I will say that
I don't allow it.
I would say that one thing that I overspend on is, well, there's probably two things. I think I overspend on experiences. So like going on trips, and stuff. And I also overspend on like education. So those two things I feel like are so much of a benefit to me that I don't mind spending more money on those things than I'll spend on anything else.
So what do you mean? Okay, so like I spend a lot of money on experiences too. What do you mean by overspending on them? Because like I'll budget out my trip and then I'll figure out this is how much I need for gas. This is the hotel. This is this and that. Are you talking like overspending in terms of like you go on the trip and you're buying things because you're on the trip that you probably shouldn't? Or overspending in terms of saying like you're probably spending more on a plane ticket when you don't necessarily need to go on the trip?
I would say overspending in the sense of like I'm very, very generous with the money that I put towards those things. So okay. Like, let's say that there is $1,000 like camera. I would think way harder on that than $1,000 like course to learn something or $1,000 round trip plane ticket to a different country or something. I just find those things, and everyone has their own things, but I feel like those things for me are the things that I get the most utility out of.
Yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying, but I think at the same time, like, it's still within reason. Like experiences are experience. Like I'll encourage anyone to go on some experience and like, whether I'm not going to encourage someone to go to a bad experience, right? Like I'm not going to encourage you to go to the middle of this place where everyone has a bad experience and there's, you know, nothing to do. But I'm also not going to say like, don't do it, because you have to find out for yourself. Maybe you go and you like it, and maybe you go and that's something you want to do. And I think like, experiences, like you saying, like, I think they're almost priceless to a point, but at the same time, I get what you're saying where like, there's sometimes when you go on, at least for me, like you go plan out a trip or something and it's like, okay, here's what my cost is. But you're like, you know what, that like, I can do that. And you're not really thinking like, you know, in my financial situation or whatever it may be, like I can afford this, but can I really, like, is this something I'm really looking to afford? It's more of like, I'm going to go have this experience.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty much that. Like I would budget way harder for taking a trip to like Europe or something than I would budget for like, you know, a new part for my car. It's just an accessory for my car, let's say. It's just kind of like one of those things that I'm predisposed to doing. Like I'm just more all right with it. But while we're on this topic, how about you?
What do I impulse buy? I buy a lot of cookies. I mean, our household just buys a lot of snacks in general, where a lot of times I don't know if it's, we need them, but we get them. But on that same note, it might be an impulse buy, but seeing that winter is coming, for everyone that's listening or whoever listens, like, we don't heat our house. That thing is hard shut off. One time he went out on a trip for like a week or something, and I was home, and I saw my breath in my own home. Like, between him and I, we make enough money to live like we're actual people, but we live like we don't have jobs. It's like, hey, turn that down. Like, there's no heat here. Or like, even in the summer, like, there's a couple days when it was 105 and the house would like creep up to 80, and it'd be a real discussion. Like, are we going to bump it down to 74 degrees? As opposed to you go to other people's house and they have their AC on all day. And maybe that's somewhere that gives us the money to buy cookies and snacks and whatever it is. But I also am shivering sometimes in my bed.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'll tell you what, dude. That's not the first time I've had that experience in my own household. So maybe I'm just a glutton for punishment, or I'm just weird in the fact that I'm one of those people. And I feel like those people have a real bad reputation as far as like super tight penny pincher. But at the same time, man, like, I don't feel like I don't feel like that is a good indication of how I live my life. Yeah. But that's just one of the many aspects of how I live it.
Yeah. Some people, maybe it's the environment we were raised in, like summers, like over at your house playing video games, and we're just like sweating, playing Minecraft or whatever it may be. But it's also like, we also realize like, we're not home all the time. And when we are, it's like a couple hours, we go to sleep, then we get on the next day or whatever. And like, even maybe it's one of those things that, the environment just formed us to like, man, like our energy bill is $30, like crazy. Or like sometimes we'll see energy bill and like, wow, it's $45. That's unreal. And like, then you'll be comparing with friends and they'll be like, yeah, dude, ours was really low this month. It was like $82. You're like, okay, low. I'll beat you.
Yeah, dude, that's 2 months for us.
Yeah.
But yeah, and also, I mean, you got to think too. Like, one of the first things that happened when moving in was LED light bulbs. So electricity efficiency, and I feel like those investments pay dividends because this is gonna sound funny, but as a college student, on Christmas, I asked for LED light bulbs, and I got laughed at a little bit by the people I asked them for. But I mean, the way I thought about it is like, this expense that I have, how can I lower it?
Yeah.
How can I increase my income, basically? Like they say, I mean, a penny saved is a penny earned.
Yeah.
And that's one of the ways that I like to do that.
Yeah, I think that, kind of ties into, once again, like ease of access. Like, you did your research, you found out that LEDs were going to save, this percentage, or save on average this. And you said, okay, I'm going to leverage myself. Like, Christmas is time for gifts. I'm not going to go pay $4 for an LED bulb or whatever it is. I'm going to have you pay $4, and you're not going to think about paying $4, and I'm going to get that. And at the end of the year, I'll have saved that money and returned some into my pocket without spending anything. And I think that's like the ease of access. Anything out there today, like, you have to be super lazy to not go research something to find out what it's about or how to, overcome it or obstacle. Like, anything in expenses, like, you can go look, like, you're going to buy a new TV. You can go to Best Buy and buy a new TV, but you can also go and do your own research and go, oh, this is, this LED screen saves energy, or it's color correct, or doesn't get hot, or whatever it may be. And you can go down there, and that way, when you spend the money that you're going for the TV, you're figured out, okay, it's going to save me a little bit of power compared to my old TV, or save me this or that, or whatever it may be, give me a better experience. Like, you can research that, as opposed to, like we're saying again, other generations didn't have the access of finding. There wasn't, in the library, there wasn't a book about the latest TV to come out. It was like, sweet, Fred at the TV store's got the inside scoop. He's going to give me this one.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like some of that is just how you are personally, or like your personality, your characteristics. Like, I'm one of those people that you kind of described. Before I step into this store to buy this thing, I mean, chances are I probably know more about that thing than anybody else in the store before I buy it. And that's just how I am. I love doing my research on things before I get them. And it's almost kind of like almost a ritual in the fact that, oh my gosh, I'm super passionate about this thing. I want it in my life. Let's learn as much as I can about it. Let's learn the things that I will like. Let's learn the things that I don't like about it. And I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like I have a way better grasp on like what that thing will mean to me and the value I'll get out of it.
All right. So kind of on the downward slope, tell me your craziest money spending story.
Craziest money spending?
Yeah,
story?
where you just kind of like, you looking back on it, like you spent a bunch of money on this thing and you either don't use it, you shouldn't have spent the money on it. Like it was impulse, it was out of hype. It was, just like, you'd be like, boy, I got $500. Like this thing is $300. I'm going to buy it.
Ooh, that's a tough one. I mean, the things that I don't use as much.
Just one that stands out to you. That's just like
that one that stands out to me.
Yeah.
So one time I don't know why, but so do you know like the Rorschach like paintings or pictures?
Oh yeah.
Like if like the psychologist will hold up and say, "What do you see?" So one time, I was on the internet and I don't know why I was feeling so impulsive, but there was this mask and it was a Rorschach mask.
How old were you?
This was when I was a freshman in college.
Okay, so you're 18.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And so I saw it, and on the mask, it actually, as you breathe like hot air, the thing would like change its form.
Okay.
And then it would like come back as it cooled down. And I was like, whoa, dude, like fucking that's cool. And I think I spent maybe like 45 or $35 on it.
Yeah.
I fucking put it on. Once I got it, I put it on for like 20 seconds. And then I probably have worn it a total of maybe another 150 seconds.
Wait, you actually have it?
Somewhere. Yeah. See, that's why that's what it is. It's like, dude, I don't use it enough to even know where it is.
When you bought it, what was your thought of when you were going to use it?
That wasn't a thought, and that's why I bought it. Okay. That's exactly why I bought it.
Touche, well played. That's impulse. Yeah, I agree.
But how about yourself?
I would say for me, I don't know if this really counts or if it was for me, but obviously, like I previously mentioned, I buy shoes a lot. And contrary, like a lot of the shoes I buy, some of them I haven't worn is just like an investment. Like I'll sell them down the line for, $500 or $600 a pair and get some investment, put a down payment on a home. So somewhat of it's investment, somewhat of it's impulse, somewhat it's just me getting it. But so you get in these little Facebook groups and you meet people and you network, and it's the age of technology. And so one of my friends sent me a text and was like, hey, Nike's releasing the Air Jordan 2 Just Don. So Just Don is like a designer for streetwear. And it was a big collaboration. He did premium materials and quilted leather and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, all right, cool. Like, you've helped me out. I'll help you out. So they do this thing called a raffle, or the sneakers raffle, with a draw, I guess. It's 1 hour. You put in like your information and it's like, all right, you've been entered. And so for these high hyped releases, you just enter the raffle, and after the hour's up, they send you an email like, hey, we picked you and you won, and they take the money out of your account, or hey, we didn't pick you, better luck next time, here are some of our next releases. So I put it in, and I have like 2 accounts. So I put it in, I changed it to a size 10.5, and I was like, okay, cool. Mind you, it's 6 a.m. Like I'm 18. 6 a.m, I get up, I'm like, cool, blah, blah, blah. I'm just going through the motions, change the size, go in, do my second account, go to bed. I wake up and my phone is just going nuts. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like someone's hitting me up. Like I got plans today. Look at my phone. It's like, congratulations. Like you spent $650 on the shoe. And I was like, okay, cool. Like the dude's going to pay me back. Like, it's in his size. I'm looking at the details, like not a 10.5. My tired self decided to not change the other one to a size 12. So instantly I was freaking out. I was like, $650, like that was way above what I'm comfortable with spending. Like, I didn't really like the shoe. Like, I didn't want it. I was like, okay, $650. And I was frantic. It was like 8 a.m. And I was trying to figure out what to do. So like, I know like obviously the market was hot. Like people who didn't win really wanted them. So I went out there and like I posted like, hey, this is for sale. It's like retail is $650. It comes with this, and that. I'll send it to you once it's shipped. So I posted it and I got like a bunch of offers, which was cool. So I ended up selling it for like $10.50 or $11.50. So like I made a return, which is great. Like I made $500 or $400 more than I was willing. But at the same time, I was like, looking back on it, like, what if no one wanted to buy it for $10.50, which is ridiculous. Like, I'm never going to buy a pair of shoes that is over $500, regardless. Like that, the investment to me
except that last time.
Yeah, that purchase to me is just not worth it. I'm like, I'm going to wear them, or like a lot of those shoes, the hype is there, and then a few months later, like they're going for $750 right now, so $100. So I really struck while it's hot, but like if I don't sell it, like I'm out $650 for until I can, sell it as an 18-year-old, and that's a lot of money. Like that is rent and insurance right now for me, or whatever it may be. So I guess at the end of the day, like everyone has those stories where you impulse purchase and you aren't thinking about it. But like if you can access the information to, learn how to save money, or how a credit card can benefit you, or how you can increase your income or decrease your expenses. So, all in all, at the end of the day, what is your one take home for money for people?
So my one take home, and the thing that I kind of learned through like going to college, and I have my degree in economics and finance, is pay yourself first. And that means when you get your check and your money, you want to save some of that, because what you're doing essentially is paying yourself in the future. That's what that money is for. It's like you got to save that money for your future self. And either if that's in a 401k or a Roth, or you just putting it in your savings account, you pay yourself first before anything else. Mm-hmm. And preferably a larger amount, like maybe even a third of your income if you can. If you can do that, then financially, you will probably be all right in the future. I mean, there's variables, and obviously you got to control your spending, your budget, and things like that. But just pay yourself first is what I would say.
So on that, do you do a certain percentage of each check, or just a certain amount? Or
so what I do is, I have two things that automatically get deducted out of my check that are investments for myself. One is a 401k, and the other is a employee stock purchasing plan. Okay. And so out of those things, two things, that's 20% of my income that I get. I mean, 401k is pre-tax. The employee stock purchasing is post-tax. So, I mean, essentially what you're thinking about is over 20% of my income is about paying myself first. And so, I mean, that's how much I like try to like make it as a precedent, because another thing too is like, you got to think about your willpower. If you get that money in your account and then it's up to you to put that in different spots, that might be a lot tougher when you see that your account has X amount of dollars in it, compared to if it's automatically withdrawn and you never see that money. That's a lot easier, and like you can succeed a lot more than if it was up to your own willpower. You got to know yourself, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think my one take home that I've found successful for me, like I'm in my senior year of college and I'm about to go into the industry, or whatever you want to call it, is that from a younger standpoint, or even once I get older, I'll do the same thing, is that if I can't afford two of them or two of the payments, I'm not going to make one. So for me, that means like when I buy shoes, if I can't purchase two pairs of those, I'm not going to buy one of them. That way, if I puts me in the situation, so if I'm, the shoe's up $120 and I I don't have enough money for $240, I'm not going to buy one because that's going to save me $120 and I'm not going to be hurting. Because if you can only afford one, like you're buying an Xbox and it's, used or whatever, and it's $300 and all you have is $300, and now you have an Xbox. But if you can afford two of them, you have an Xbox and $300, which can go to various things. But I'm never going to go broke over something that I can't afford. So even if it's eventually when I get a new car, like if I can't afford 2 car payments, so we'll say $400 a month. If I can't afford to pay, say it was $800, then I'm not going to look for that car. I might look for something a little bit lower.
Gotcha. I mean, I feel like that'll pay dividends in the future for those what if things. Like, for instance, what if shit happens and you're stuck with one payment? Like, for instance, like what if you buy a phone and you're stuck with that payment and it breaks, you didn't get insurance, and you have to pay that, but you also have to get a new phone, or you find yourself a new phone. And so I think that is a very firm rule to never overspend your budget there.
Exactly. And I think that's, kind of wraps it up for what was coming off the top of our heads today and what was just flowing. Thanks for tuning in. If you did listen to the whole thing, or you skipped to the end, or whatever it may be, maybe you found something helpful. We're just kind of doing it to spew off some ideas. If you do like it, go ahead and follow whatever I put this on, and, maybe share it to some people you think are terrible with their money, or, people who might have some other insight to talk about it. But that's off the top, and thanks for listening.
Thanks.